It was a grand hall. At the very center stood a colossal statue, carved from pure gold, adorned with diamonds and precious jewels. Its eyes, embedded with priceless gems that cast out brilliant beams of light. Wherever those beams touched the floor, the surface shimmered, sparkled, danced with radiance. And right there within that enchanted circle of light lay a large net. Entangled in its grip were Eric the Hunter, Kyle Star, and Max Star, struggling desperately, helplessly, trapped. Around the hall, sorcerers stood, their heads bowed, in deep, unwavering reverence. At the very front stood Emperor Faryad Sahib, his hands clasped, flanked by the Prime Minister and the realm's most powerful sorcerers. This was the statue of the Samri sorcerer, worshipped by them as their god. And today they had gathered for a sacred offering. Eric the Hunter, Kyle Star, Max Star were to be sacrificed to the Samri deity. Emperor Faryad Sahib's face glowed with triumph, his eyes brimming with satisfaction. For at last, his greatest enemy, Eric the Hunter, was nearing his final breath. Time and again, Eric had outwitted him, caused havoc with his cunning tricks. But this time, he was trapped, utterly, completely, hopelessly. And Faryad Sahib had no doubt that Eric's end was certain. The Book of Samri warned Faryad Sahib just in time. It revealed that Eric the Hunter was hiding in plain sight, disguised as a sorcerer king. Kyle Star and Max Star, they were strangers to him, faces he had never seen before. But their presence alongside Eric was enough. It was clear they were allies of Lord Hammer, and that made them enemies of the throne. And so, the verdict was sealed. All three, Eric, Kyle, and Max, were now caught in the sacred net. Helpless, exposed, ready to be offered to the Samri deity. Emperor, your command. The Prime Minister's voice echoed, firm and formal. Faryad Sahib stepped forward, halted near the net, and slowly knelt before the statue. With folded hands and a voice full of reverence, he spoke. O Samri deity, your offering is present. Accept their sacrifice and bless us with joy and victory. He repeated it once, twice, his voice trembling with devotion. Suddenly, a commotion rippled through the grand hall. A beam of red light shot down from the ceiling, piercing through the air and striking the net below. The three prisoners were frozen in place. The red glow surrounded them, then slowly faded away. The Emperor rose, wordless. He returned to his place. Then, with a single gesture of his hand, an executioner appeared, towering, silent, carrying a massive, gleaming axe. He marched toward the net, his footsteps heavy. Listen, executioner, the Emperor's voice thundered. Keep swinging the axe until they're reduced to pieces. Rest assured, your majesty, I know my duty well, the executioner's voice thundered with confidence. He raised his axe high, waited for the signal, and as the Emperor nodded, he brought it down with full force. The sorcerers cheered in delight, but in the very next moment, gasps echoed across the hall. The axe struck the net and bounced off. It flew right out of the executioner's hands and landed far across the marble floor. What happened? The Emperor's voice trembled with disbelief. I don't know, your majesty, the executioner stammered. It felt as if I struck solid steel. Only the net was cut right where I hit it. Strike! Strike again! The Emperor roared. The executioner ran, retrieved the axe, and began striking once more, blow after blow. But there was no blood, no screams, no pain. After nearly a dozen powerful hits, suddenly the net began to shake. And from the torn section, Kyle Star, and Max Star leaped out. Seeing them emerge, completely unharmed, the Emperor and the sorcerers froze, shocked, silent, still. Before they could even blink, Kyle and Max reached into their pockets and drew out pistols. They pressed the triggers, and in an instant, the grand hall erupted with the screams of sorcerers. Explosions echoed, one after another, shaking the pillars, cracking the golden tiles. Then, Kyle Star raised his pistol, took aim, and fired a blazing red beam straight at the Samri statue. Boom! A deafening blast. The statue shattered into fragments. Darkness swallowed the hall, and every voice fell silent. Free me! Free me! It was Eric the Hunter, calling from within the net. Kyle Star rushed forward, knelt beside him, dragged him out, and swiftly cut his ropes loose. They vanished, Eric whispered, in a hushed, urgent tone. Kyle and Max exhaled deeply, relieved, alive. As the smoke cleared, what they saw stunned them. The hall was gone. They stood in an open field, under the wide, gray sky. Around them, only scattered pieces remained, remnants of the sorcerers' bodies. Faryad Sahib, the Prime Minister, gone, nowhere to be seen. Get out of here, quickly! Eric the Hunter's voice was sharp, urgent. If we stay, Faryad Sahib will unleash a magical strike, one we may not survive. The three didn't wait. They ran, fast, turning down a narrow side. The city was in complete chaos. Sorcerers darted through the streets, confused, terrified, no one knew where to go. But Eric, Kyle, and Max had the cloak of invisibility draped over them. No one could see them. Unseen, they slipped past the crowds, crossed the outer walls, and stopped in a desolate clearing far from the city. Now, we must change our appearances immediately, Eric said, catching his breath. He tucked the cloak back into his satchel, then pulled out a small vial, the ointment of disguise. With swift, practiced hands, he applied it to his own face, then Kyle's, then Max's. Their features began to shift. Skin tone, bone shape, eyes transformed. Next, he took out folded robes from the satchel. Thick, dark, lined with silver runes. He wore one himself and handed the others their disguises. Moments later, the three stood tall, cloaked as sorcerers. And in a city full of thousands, wearing the same robes, no one could recognize them now. I'm deeply grateful to you for saving me today. Eric the Hunter's voice was soft, sincere. Had you not intervened, Faryad Sahib would have succeeded in his dark plan. Kyle Star smiled. Yes, if we hadn't saved you, that fearsome axe would have turned you into pieces. And you know us well. No sword, axe, or dagger can harm us. Eric chuckled lightly. Indeed, I'm convinced now. Your magic, the one you call science, is far more powerful than all the spells of these sorcerers. The three exchanged a knowing glance, and without a word more, they turned and began walking back toward the city. Meanwhile, Emperor Faryad Sahib was terrified. The massive explosions had shaken his soul, and when the great Samri statue shattered, he fled the hall in panic, rushing straight to the palace. In that moment, magic meant nothing. Sorcerers meant nothing. He had just one goal: to reach the Book of Samri, to understand this new, unknown calamity. Upon reaching the palace, he exhaled a breath of relief, then marched, without pause, to the sacred chamber. Moments later, he stood before the book, silent, hands folded, face pale, trembling. "O holy Book of Samri," he cried, voice quivering. "Tell me, how did this happen? Why did the executioner's fearsome axe fail to harm those tricksters? What were those explosions that tore my sorcerers to pieces? How did the sacred Samri statue break? Who are these new enemies? What magic do they possess that lets them cause destruction from a distance? And how can I protect myself from them? Tell me everything. His voice broke, desperate, shaken, distressed. As soon as he finished speaking, the book of Samri opened. Right in the middle, pages fluttered. A dim, eerie glow emerged, and words began to appear. Faryad Sahib leaned in, eyes wide, breath held. He read, "These two new tricksters came from who knows where. It seems they are from another world. Our knowledge cannot reveal who they are, how they cause explosions, or why the axe has no effect on them. Therefore, you must find a way to deal with them yourself." The words faded. The glow vanished. Faryad Sahib stood frozen, eyes locked on the page, stunned, paralyzed by fear. Even the Book of Samri had no answers. If this sacred book could not explain who these beings were, how could he possibly defeat them? And yet, he knew one thing. Something had to be done, no matter what. Emperor Faryad Sahib entered his private chamber in complete silence, his head bowed, his steps slow and heady. He sat upon his grand throne-like chair, then quietly gestured to a maid. "Bring me wine," he said, his voice low, controlled. As he sipped the dark liquid, his eyes narrowed, his mind plunged deep into thought. How to deal with the tricksters? What tower could break through their strange magic? After a long, brooding silence, a dark idea surfaced. The Jamshid Spell, a spell feared by all, resisted by none. It was brutal, ancient, unstoppable. He remembered, when the tricksters were trapped in the net, they had been completely helpless, not even a scream. That memory gave him confidence. If they could be rendered powerless once, they could be again. The Jamshid Spell would break them. Of this, he was certain. At once, he summoned the maid again. "Call the Prime Minister," he ordered. Moments later, the Prime Minister entered, his face clouded with worry. "What is your command, Emperor?" he asked, his tone respectful and cautious. "I have decided to use the Jamshid Spell against these tricksters." Faryad Sahib's voice rang out, calm but commanding. "Summon Senitor the Wiz, the greatest master of the Jamshid Spell, from the depths of the earth, at once." The Prime Minister hesitated. "Excellent, Your Majesty, but how will we find these tricksters now?" His voice trembled with nervous uncertainty. "Senitor the Wiz will track them down himself," Faryad Sahib replied coldly. "Just summon him immediately and proclaim across the entire realm, wherever these tricksters are spotted, we must be informed at once." The Prime Minister bowed, requested leave, and vanished down the corridor. Meanwhile, whispers spread across the land of Hoshruba. The destruction of the Samri statue, an event once thought impossible, had shaken the world of sorcery to its core. Never had such sacrilege been committed. Even the most powerful magic had never dared to challenge the statue. But what the sorcerers didn't know was that this wasn't magic. It was something far more dangerous, something they could not even begin to comprehend. It was science. A force born centuries ahead of their time, now turned against them. While the sorcerers mourned the destruction of the Samri statue, a different fire burned in their hearts. Anger, hatred, fierce and consuming, toward one name, Eric the Hunter, and with him, Kyle Star and Max Star. The sorcerers seethed. They burned for revenge. And when news spread that the Emperor had chosen to unleash the Jamshid Spell upon these tricksters, they rejoiced. At last, justice would be served, and not just any justice, but the wrath of Senitor the Wiz the cruel master of the Jamshid Spell. They knew he would show no mercy, and so they waited, with bated breath, with clenched fists, with eyes to the horizon, awaiting his arrival. Meanwhile, Eric the Hunter, Kyle Starr, and Max Starr, disguised as sorcerers, returned to the city. But what they saw was chaos. Sorcerers running in every direction, panic written across every face. A storm of fear had gripped the realm. And then the Prime Minister's voice echoed through the air, loud, firm, final. A decision had been made. The Jamshid Spell would be unleashed, and Senitor the Wiz was being summoned. Kyle Starr and Max Starr glanced at each other. Unbothered, unaffected, they had never heard of the Jamshid Spell. But Eric the Hunter froze. His face turned pale, his breath shallow. "We're doomed," he whispered, voice shaking. "This is terrible." He leaned closer to Kyle. "They're going to use the Jamshid Spell against us." Kyle stared at him, surprised, confused. "What happened? Why are you so scared?" he asked. Eric's voice dropped, filled with dread. "They're going to use the Jamshid Spell against us." Max tilted his head, genuinely curious. "What's that?" he asked. "The Jamshid Spell," Eric the Hunter spoke, his voice low, grim, "is the most dangerous magic in existence. Whoever falls under its influence is transformed into an animal forever." Kyle Starr blinked. "Incredible, but how? What kind of animal?" he asked, astonished. Eric leaned in, eyes serious. "Whatever animal the sorcerer chooses. There's no counter, no defense, no reversal except one. Eliminate the master of the spell. Only then does the curse break." Max and Kyle fell silent, the weight of this knowledge settling like stone in their chests. "All right then, we'll deal with whatever comes our way." Kyle Starr's voice was firm, filled with resolve. "Tell us, where is Faryad Sahib's palace? Before Senitor the Wiz can cast the Jamshid Spell, why don't we infiltrate the palace, kill Faryad Sahib, and take the necklace from his neck?" Eric the Hunter froze, eyes wide. "You can't just walk into Faryad Sahib's palace," he warned sharply. "It's guarded, day and night, by powerful sorcerers. If the wrong person even tries to enter, they're either paralyzed or reduced to ashes." But Kyle stepped forward, grinning, confident. "Just come along, Eric. We'll figure something out once we're there. You've got your cunning, we've got our courage, and above all, God will guide us." "Yes, you're right. Losing hope won't help." Max Starr stepped forward, supporting with calm resolve. The three companions then began their journey toward Faryad Sahib's palace. They walked for miles, the path silent, yet heavy with tension. And finally, they stood before it. A towering, magnificent structure, grand gates of black stone. Dozens of sorcerers lined its walls, eyes sharp, hands ready. Above them, strange, eerie birds circled the sky, their screeches unnatural, their presence ominous. "This is Faryad Sahib's palace," Eric the Hunter said grimly. "I have a suggestion." Kyle Starr's voice cut in, thoughtful, measured. "What is it?" Eric asked, curious, cautious. "We should split up. You go your way, and we go ours. If we stay together, you might get caught because of us, or we might get caught because of you. It's too risky. We'll cover more ground, apart." "Fine, as you wish." Eric the Hunter nodded calmly, but deep inside, he was relieved. Perhaps he wanted this separation too. The fear of Senitor the Wiz still echoed in his chest. He believed that as long as he wore the cloak of invisibility, Senitor could never find him. Ever since he heard about the Jamshid Spell, Eric had made a secret decision. He would vanish, hide, slip away from this realm entirely. He would not take chances, not against a spell that could turn him into an animal and end in certain death. He trusted in his cunning. He trusted in his invisibility. And so, the choice was made, even if he didn't say it aloud. And so, Eric the Hunter parted ways. He reached into his satchel, pulled out the cloak of invisibility, and slowly draped it over his shoulders. In an instant, he vanished. Not a sound, not a shadow. But he didn't go far. He stayed close, watching silently, curious to witness their so-called magic. He felt safe, protected, convinced that no spell, not even the Jamshid spell, could touch him now. Meanwhile, Kyle Star and Max Star moved quietly toward the back of the palace. Still disguised as sorcerers, they walked with confidence, unaware that Eric was following just a few steps behind. "What's the plan?" Max Star asked, his voice low, steady, eyes fixed on the towering wall ahead. "I think we should board our ship," Kyle Star said, eyes gleaming with resolve. "We'll take it so high that no magic can reach us." "Right, let's find a deserted spot," Max Star nodded, instantly on board. Without wasting a second, they left the city behind, racing across barren paths until they reached a desolate field. No one was around, just dust and silence. There, Kyle reached into his pocket and pulled out a small button, silver, smooth, and glowing faintly. He rubbed it in a specific motion and placed it gently on the ground. At once, a cloud of smoke erupted. The button trembled, grew, expanded. Within seconds, their ship stood tall before them, gleaming, ready for launch. But then, "Take me with you!" A voice rang out, unexpected, urgent. Both turned, startled. Their hands reached for their weapons. And then, Eric the Hunter appeared, removing the cloak of invisibility. "You were with us?" Kyle Star asked, eyes wide with disbelief. "Yes, I was with you," Eric the Hunter replied, calmly, "and I overheard your plan, so I'm coming along." "All right, come on," Kyle Star said, without hesitation. He pressed the latch. The ship's door slid open with a hiss. The three stepped inside, each taking their seat. Kyle shut the door and pressed the activation button. The ship responded instantly, machinery humming, lights flashing. With a burst of power, it soared into the sky, higher and higher, until the world below vanished into clouds. At a certain height, Kyle adjusted the dials, precise, calculated, then pressed the descent button. "The ship will land right above the palace," Max Star said with a confident grin. But then, his smile faded. His eyes narrowed. "But what if we're caught the moment we land?" he asked, his voice tinged with concern. "No, we'll land on the palace roof," Kyle Star said reassuringly, "and the moment we touch down, we'll turn the ship back into a button and tuck it into our pocket." The ship descended rapidly, cutting through clouds, and landed precisely on the palace roof. As soon as it stopped, the three jumped out. Eric the Hunter quickly pulled on the cloak of invisibility and vanished. Kyle bent down, touched the ship, and in an instant, it shrank into a button, slipped it into his pocket. They were ready. Weapons in hand, they moved toward the rooftop staircase. But then, a jolt, electric, paralyzing. A shock surged through their bodies. They froze. An invisible net had caught them. They struggled, pulled, their pistols still gripped tightly, but useless. They couldn't move, couldn't aim, couldn't fire. The net, unseen, was too strong. And in mere seconds, they were completely helpless. Then, their feet lifted off the ground, slowly, weightlessly. Kyle Star and Max Star floated in the air, like a kite whose string had been cut. They twisted, swayed, suspended in the invisible net, terrified by the strange force that held them. And then they began to move, dragged, pulled inside the palace. It felt as if some unseen hand was yanking them inward, through walls of power they couldn't resist. And then, thud, they fell, from a great height, slamming hard, onto the stone floor of the palace's inner veranda. Everything went black. Their pistols slipped from their hands and skidded far away. Unconscious, defeated, they lay still, caught in the enemy's lair. Meanwhile, Faryad Sahib sat alone, deep inside his private chamber. Before him, a small statue, ancient, silent, cold. He whispered, chanting something under his breath. Eyes closed, face flushed red, with effort or fear. He sat like that for a long, tense moment. Then suddenly, he leaned forward and blew on the statue. A swirl of blue smoke erupted, twisting, hissing, coiling around the figure. Faryad Sahib's eyes snapped open, burning with anticipation. And then, as the smoke cleared, the statue was gone. In its place stood a dwarf, its eyes gleaming, its body still, its presence unnatural. "What is your command, master?" the dwarf asked, its voice shrill and piercing. "I am in grave trouble," Faryad Sahib said, his voice tight with urgency. "I am ready to serve, my master," replied the spirit. "Boni, tell me, where are those tricksters now, and what are they doing?" Faryad Sahib asked, urgently. Boni the spirit raised its hand, fingers glowing faintly, then brought it down sharply. In an instant, a glowing scene appeared on the opposite wall. Faryad Sahib's eyes widened. He saw a massive ship, shaped like a capsule, and inside, Kyle Star, Max Star, and Eric the Hunter were boarding it. He frowned, confused. "What is this thing, Boni?" he asked, his voice uncertain. "It's a flying box, my master," Boni the spirit replied without hesitation. Moments later, the box began to rise, swiftly, up into the sky, shrinking as it vanished into the clouds. Faryad Sahib stared, speechless, stunned. He had never seen a flying box before. "Where is this box going?" he asked, in a bewildered tone. "It will land on the roof of your palace," Boni the spirit answered, calmly. "On my palace roof?" Faryad Sahib exclaimed, startled. "But how? My palace is shielded by powerful magic." "It will fly so high that your magic won't reach it." Boni's tone remained still, assured. "Oh," Faryad Sahib murmured, eyes fixed on the glowing scene before him. The box, once small, now began to grow again, elongating, sharpening in shape, descending, and beneath it stood Faryad Sahib's royal palace. The flying box was headed directly for it. "Emperor, be alert," Boni's voice sharpened. "The box will land on your palace roof. The moment these tricksters step out, trap them in a magical net immediately. If they escape your grasp, a calamity will follow. A great one." "Yes, I'm ready." Faryad Sahib's voice echoed with fury. "Once they fall into my hands, I'll punish them so severely they'll never forget. Senitor the Wiz is coming. He'll turn them into animals. Then we, the sorcerers, will hunt them down. Trap them in a magical net, send them to the Black Realm, and send Senitor there to deal with them." "I'll do as you say," he declared, to himself, his eyes locked on the approaching ship. He stood, raised both arms toward the sky, waiting, breathing, burning with vengeance. Soon, the ship landed, its door hissed open. Eric the Hunter stepped out first. Faryad Sahib said nothing, arms still raised, eyes glowing, waiting for the perfect moment. Then, Kyle Star and Max Star followed, calm, unaware. Kyle turned, closed the ship's door. Then he waved his hand. A cloud of smoke wrapped around the ship, and within moments, it was gone. Kyle picked up the small butt. Eric the Hunter moved swiftly. Without a word, he reached into his satchel and pulled out the cloak of invisibility. In one fluid motion, he draped it over himself and vanished. From Faryad Sahib's eyes, he was gone. Faryad Sahib, what are you doing? Cast the magical net, now! Bani the spirit's voice thundered in the chamber. Snapping out of his daze, Faryad Sahib's eyes flared. He jerked his hands in a strange motion. At once, Kyle Star and Max Star felt a jolt. A net, invisible, electric, cold, wrapped around them. Kyle tried to raise his pistol, to fire one last beam, but Faryad Sahib clasped his hands together, tightly. In an instant, they froze, helpless, trapped, suspended in midair. Faryad Sahib raised his arms sharply. Their feet lifted off the ground as if pulled by strings. Silently, they floated toward the palace's grand interior. And there, with a sudden, brutal motion, Faryad Sahib lowered his hands. They dropped, hard, crashing onto the floor. Stunned, broken. Very well, Bani the spirit said softly. But what about the third trickster? I'm not worried about him, Faryad Sahib said with a dismissive wave. He's cunning, yes, but not as dangerous as these two. Besides, he's inside my palace now. Without my permission, he cannot escape. The moment he removes the cloak of invisibility, he'll be visible, and one of my sorcerers will catch him instantly. Then it's settled, Bani the spirit said coldly. Throw these two into the Black Realm, and send Senitor the Wiz after them. He'll deal with them himself. Yes, I'll do just that, Faryad Sahib declared. With a flourish, he rang the bell, loud, commanding. Moments later, a maid entered, head bowed. Tell the gods to take these two tricksters and throw them into the Black Realm, he commanded. The maid nodded and left without a word. Faryad Sahib stood motionless, watching the glowing wall before him. On the screen, several guards appeared, lifting the limp bodies of Kyle Star and Max Star. They also picked up the strange tube-like objects that had fallen from their hands. Silently, the guards carried them through the palace halls, room after room, until they reached a tall black door. One guard stepped forward, opened it, and without a word, threw Kyle, Max, and their weapons inside. The door slammed shut. The guards stepped back, waiting. Then, Faryad Sahib raised a single finger, calmly. The door vanished. In its place stood a smooth, solid wall, sealed. Final. No way out. May I go now? Boni the spirit asked softly. You may go. I'm now at ease, Faryad Sahib replied, his tone dripping with satisfaction. With a faint shimmer, Boni vanished. Then, Faryad Sahib clapped once. A maid entered. Alert all palace guards, he said coldly. If Eric the Hunter is spotted, cast a magical net upon him and bring him to me. Also, as soon as Senitor the Wiz arrives, bring him straight here. The maid bowed and quietly left to carry out the Emperor's command. Emperor Faryad Sahib let out a long, deep sigh of relief. He leaned back onto his royal couch. His face, once tight with worry, now showed calm, satisfaction, victory. Meanwhile, Eric the Hunter stood in the shadows, unseen, wrapped tightly in the cloak of invisibility. He had seen everything. He had watched Kyle Star and Max Star fall into the magical trap, helpless, lifted high, then slammed to the ground. He understood. Faryad Sahib had spotted them, and now he was just waiting for Eric to reveal himself, to slip up, to fall into the same net. But Eric was no fool. He tightened the cloak around himself, even closer, even quieter. And then, with silent steps, he moved toward the staircase, toward the heart of the palace, toward a new plan only he could imagine. Guards stood at the top of the staircase, alert, armed, but Eric the Hunter was silent as a shadow. Wrapped in the cloak of invisibility, he moved with extreme caution. Not a breath, not a sound. He slipped past the guards, unseen. Step by step, he descended carefully, his boots making no sound on the ancient stone. At the lower level, he paused, listening, observing. There, he overheard the whispers. Kyle Star and Max Star had been thrown into the Black Realm. Faryad Sahib now waited in his private chamber for the arrival of someone deadly. Senitor the Wiz. Eric's breath caught. He had heard the name. The master of the Jamshid Spell. A spell with no counter. A curse that could turn any man into a helpless beast. But Eric had never seen him. His curiosity stirred. His instinct sharpened. He crept forward toward the private chamber. There, he slipped inside and stood silent in the corner of the room, unseen, unheard, and waited. Faryad Sahib sat comfortably in his ornate chair, draped in gold and velvet. The room was silent until the great doors creaked open, and in walked Senitor the Wiz, riding a beast, part lion, part ferocious bear. Its eyes burned red, its breath heavy, primal. Senitor's body was covered in thick, red hair. He wore only a loincloth. 2 massive fangs jutted from his mouth, his nails long and sharpened like claws. His face, a terrifying vision from some ancient nightmare. The lion-like beast stepped calmly forward and stopped before the throne. Without a word, Senitor dismounted. Then he prostrated himself before the emperor. The beast sat silently to one side, watching, breathing. Rise, Faryad Sahib commanded, his voice thunderous, regal, final. Emperor, why have you summoned your servant? Give your orders, said Senitor the Wiz, rising to his feet, his voice respectful, his posture low. Faryad Sahib leaned forward. Senitor the Wiz, you are the greatest master of the Jamshid Spell. And now, tricksters have infiltrated our realm of Hoshruba. 2 of them wield powers beyond imagination. They destroyed the sacred Samri statue using fearsome magic. They arrive in a flying box, landing, vanishing. Whenever they please, axes do not harm them. Swords are useless. They've unleashed chaos throughout my realm. I want them punished severely. Senitor's eyes glowed faintly. He clasped his hands. Give the command, Your Majesty, he said solemnly. Such tricksters deserve a punishment that will uphold the glory of Hoshruba and the eternal majesty of your reign. We has imprisoned those 2 tricksters in the Black Realm, said Faryad Sahib, his voice calm but razor sharp. The 3rd, Eric the Hunter, he is somewhere inside this palace, hidden, invisible. That cloak of invisibility keeps him unseen. He might even be in this very room. Faryad's eyes flicked to the corners of the chamber. But we are not concerned. We've faced him before. Our real worry is the 2 new tricksters. Once they are dealt with, we will find and destroy. Eric the Hunter, Your Majesty speaks wisely, Senitor the Wiz replied, bowing deeply. We summoned you, Faryad continued, to cast the Jamshid spell upon those 2. We could have used our own magic, but it has weaknesses, loopholes. The Jamshid spell has none. It is unbreakable. Excellent, Your Highness. Send me to the Black Realm, or bring them here, declared Senitor the Wiz, his voice brimming with excitement. I shall turn them into rabbits, and you can drag them out by their long, floppy ears. A wicked grin spread across his terrifying face. Very well, Faryad Sahib said, rising from his throne, his robe flowing behind him. We'll send you to the Black Realm, turn them into rabbits, and bring them out. Without another word, he stepped forward. Majestic, assured, and behind him, with beastly calm, Senitor the Wiz followed, eager, hungry, and ready. Eric the Hunter knew this was not the time to strike. Faryad Sahib and Senitor the Wiz were drenched in magic. Powerful, unforgiving. One wrong move, and he would be dead. So, he followed them silently, invisible, focused. Through winding corridors, they arrived at a tall, dark wall. Faryad Sahib raised a single finger and flicked it gently. Whoosh! The wall vanished, revealing a hidden door. Another swift gesture, and the door creaked open. Without a word, Senitor the Wiz leapt inside with the grace of a beast. The door shut behind him, and at Faryad's signal, became a wall once more. Silent, sealed, final. Faryad turned around, smug, satisfied. He walked back to his chamber with regal calm, certain that the tricksters were finally finished. Meanwhile, as soon as Kyle Star and Max Star fell into the Black Realm, the magical net vanished. But everything around them was pure darkness, a suffocating void. No light, no sound, no exit. It felt as if they had gone blind. Max Star, take out the torch. Kyle's voice echoed nervously. Have we gone blind? Max fumbled through his jacket and pulled out a pencil torch, designed by their father. Fueled by atomic energy, it could shine through the darkest corners of any world. He clicked it on. Zzz. A powerful beam cut through the dark, flooding the room with light. They gasped. They were inside a small, square room. Floor, ceiling, walls, all black. Creepy red statues stood in corners. Human skulls lined the floor. Some walls bore twisted images of monkeys screaming in agony. But strangest of all, there was no door. And yet, they had just been thrown in through one. What kind of room is this? Max whispered, trembling. I'm scared. Don't panic, Kyle Star said firmly, placing a reassuring hand on his brother's shoulder. They've created a magical room for us, but remember, we have greater magic. But what was that net? Max Star asked, his voice shaky. We couldn't even see it. A magical net, Kyle replied calmly. This is Hoshruba, Max. We'll face magic at every step. But we got trapped here for no reason, Max's voice rose. Why did we even come? Kyle smiled, undaunted. It's all right, Max Star. We set out for adventure, and this is an exciting one. He paused, eyes gleaming. When we return, we'll quietly board our ship and leave this planet. Simple as that. What if we get stuck in a magical net that we can't escape? Max Star's voice quivered. Being younger and new to such danger, he had lost all hope. But Kyle Star stayed calm, strong, steady. Don't worry, Max Star, he said gently, patting his shoulder. We must be ready for anything. The universe is vast, full of secrets, and we are its explorers. It's our mission to visit strange planets, face the unknown, and find a way through it all. Max nodded slowly, but his voice still trembled. True, but still, we need to think of a way to get out of here. Yes, we need to figure out an escape, Kyle Star whispered, his voice tense, though his mind held no plan. Both brothers had already picked up their pistols when they'd regained consciousness. Kyle stepped forward, took aim, and fired a red beam at the wall. Zap! The blast echoed, but the wall didn't even crack. It was unbreakable. Then, suddenly, the front wall split. Silently, a narrow door formed, opening on its own. Both brothers straightened, hearts pounding. Kyle grabbed the torch from Max and switched it off. Darkness swallowed the room. They pressed into a corner, holding their breath. A shadow stepped in. The door shut. The wall sealed. Complete silence. Total darkness. Kyle clicked the torch back on and froze. Max Star gasped. Before them stood a monster. His thick red hair dripping, eyes glowing like red lightning, and from his mouth, 2 giant fangs. Senitor the Wiz had arrived. The sudden light startled Senitor the Wiz. He faltered, just for a moment. But then, he let out a feral scream and jerked both hands. Ah! Kyle Star raised his pistol, fired, but only a tiny burst emerged. And then, boom! It felt as if an atomic blast had exploded inside their bodies. Agonizing pain ripped through their nerves. Their world spun. Darkness closed in. they collapsed. When they awoke, they were rabbits, small, furry, helpless. Their porch still glowed dimly nearby. Their pistols lay untouched. They could think, they could hear, but they were no longer human. Tiny paws, soft fur, and no strength. From the shadows, a thunderous, echoing laugh shook the room. Senator the Wiz stood tall, his fangs bared in triumph. Ha 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 ha! Run now, little rabbits. Run all you want. Even the greatest tricksters fail before Senitor the Sorcerer. Senator the Wiz roared, his laughter echoing through the black realm. But then, thump, a sound from behind. The two small rabbits, Kyle and Max Star, froze. Their eyes widened. Eric the Hunter had appeared right behind Senator. He had quietly removed his cloak of invisibility, laying it gently on the floor, perhaps tired of wearing it. From his satchel, he pulled out a strange object, an egg, glowing faintly red. And then, smash, he hurled it straight onto Senator's head. Crack! A burst of rent smoke exploded, engulfing Senator's face. Caught completely off guard, the mighty sorcerer swayed for a moment. Then, thud, he collapsed to the ground, unconscious. The room fell silent. Only the faint hum of the glowing torch and the quiet breathing of two stunned rabbits remained. Don't worry, Kyle Star, Max Star. I'll finish him and restore you both, Eric the Hunter vowed, his voice steady, deadly. He pulled the Hydari dagger from his satchel, knelt on Senator's chest, and without hesitation, thrust. The blade sank deep into the sorcerer's neck. Blood burst forth like a fountain of fire. Eric didn't stop. He butchered him like a warrior from legend. Moments later, Senator's head rolled to the floor. And then, Kyle and Max Star collapsed, fainting from the shock. When they awoke, they were human again, breathing hard, hands trembling, but whole. And then, a scream, a final voice echoed through the room. I was Senitor the Sorcerer. Alas, I've been betrayed, slaughtered. The voice faded into smoke. Senator's body dissolved. His blood vanished. Nothing remained. Just silence and freedom. Only the three of them remained in the room. Eric the Hunter, Kyle Star, Max Star. The brothers rushed forward and hugged Eric tightly. Thank you, Eric. You saved us. Eric smiled, but his eyes were sharp. It had to be done, he said calmly. Otherwise, we'd still be hopping around as rabbits. I didn't attack Senator outside because Faryad Sahib was watching. I had to wait. I knew he'd use the Jamshid Spell. It took time, but thank God, that demon is gone. Kyle Star's face turned serious. But what now? How will we escape and avoid Faryad Sahib? Eric leaned in, his voice low, steady. Don't worry. I've got a plan. I'll disguise myself as Senitor the Wiz and walk you both right out of here. Just stay quiet, and no matter how strange my orders seem, follow them exactly. I'll handle the rest. All right. Kyle Star and Max Star nodded firmly. Eric the Hunter got to work. He removed his clothes, rubbed a thick potion onto his body. Hair, dense and red, sprouted instantly. 2 artificial fangs clicked into place. Then, the ointment of disguise transformed his face into Senitor the Wiz. His eyes glowed. His breath turned heavy. He was Senitor the Sorcerer now. From his satchel, he pulled a small orb, squeezed it, until it shrank to a coin. Then, he swallowed it. A strange hum passed through him. He touched the wall. Shh! It vanished. A door appeared. It opened. Eric turned, nodded once. Kyle shut off the torch, pocketed it with his pistol, and both followed silently. Outside, in the dim corridor, Faryad Sahib stood, flanked by grim-faced sorcerers. Their eyes fell on Kyle and Max in human form. Gasps, murmurs, shock. Faryad Sahib stepped forward, his eyes ablaze. "What happened, Zanata? Why aren't they rabbits?" His voice echoed, filled with fury. "No, master," Eric replied, in Senator's gravelly voice, bowing slightly. "These two are powerful sorcerers. I couldn't turn them into rabbits, but I've subdued them completely. They can't move, not a finger, without my command." Faryad Sahib scowled. "We wanted them turned into rabbits. That's why we summoned you. Subduing them? We could have done that ourselves." Eric held his ground. "Your Majesty, there's no need to worry. They will become rabbits." But it required immense Jamshid Spell effort. I even had to summon the spirit of Samri. The hall fell silent. Sorcerers exchanged glances. Faryad Sahib's eyes widened. "You summoned the spirit of Samri?" Eric smiled faintly. "Yes, Your Majesty. It took me 40 years to master that rite. Now it comes at my call." Faryad Sahib leaned forward, curiosity sharpening his gaze. "And what did the spirit of Samri say?" "Your Majesty." Eric paused for a moment, his voice growing more somber. "The spirit of Samri gave me troubling news. These two are far more than they appear. They are highly dangerous sorcerers, wielding strange cosmic magic that poses a grave threat to Hoshruba. To subdue them, you must sit them before you and chant the Samri prayer for 10 days. Once that's done, their magic will vanish, and you will be able to kill them. The spirit deemed my presence essential. So, I subdued them, brought them here, and now command as you wish." Faryad Sahib listened intently, his eyes narrowing, deep in thought. "If the spirit of Samri said so, it must be true." Faryad Sahib murmured, looking down at the two helpless figures. "They are indeed dangerous tricksters. But how can I know they're really under your control?" "I'll show you." Eric the Hunter, in the voice of Senitor the Wiz, turned to the two silent figures. "Kyle Star, Max Star, hold your ears, lie down, and touch your noses to the ground." Instantly, they obeyed. No hesitation, no question. "Stand up straight." They rose, like puppets on strings. "Lift one leg." 2 legs lifted, in perfect sync. Eric's voice boomed again. "Bow and salute Faryad Sahib." Both bowed low, then saluted in crisp unison. Eric turned, his expression proud. "See, Your Majesty, they're under my control." Faryad Sahib's eyes widened. He watched the scene like a man watching a perfectly trained beast. "Incredible. They wouldn't obey me," he muttered. Eric smiled, calm and assured. "No, Your Majesty. They are bound to me, by spell, by force, by the will of the spirit of Samri." "All right then, I'll begin the 10-day Samri prayer, as per the spirit's command to end their magic," Faryad Sahib announced. He rose, his expression solemn, his pace slow and deliberate. Eric, still masked as Senator, followed with silent confidence, while Kyle Star and Max Star trailed behind. They entered a candlelit chamber, dark walls, low chanting from beyond. A place meant for ancient spells. Faryad Sahib seated himself cross-legged, placed Eric beside him, and gestured for the two tricksters to sit on the ground before them. He closed his eyes and began to chant strange mantras, his voice deep, almost echoing through the walls. Kyle Star clenched his fists, his eyes narrowed. A thought crossed his mind. Should I draw my pistol? Should I finish him now? But then he remembered Lord Hammer's warning. Faryad Sahib can't be killed by ordinary means. You must learn how. So Kyle remained silent. He turned toward Eric, still uncertain of his next move. But one thing was clear. Faryad Sahib suspected nothing. Eric the Hunter, the master of disguise, had deceived even the great sorcerer emperor. Now, they could only wait for his next signal. Suddenly, Faryad Sahib flinched. A whisper, cold and ancient, brushed his ear. "You're being deceived. This is not Sanada the sorcerer. It is Eric the Hunter. He sits beside you, to steal the Samri pearl necklace." Be alert. It was the voice of the spirit of Samri, and only the Emperor could hear it. He didn't open his eyes, didn't blink. He simply changed the rhythm of his chant. His fingers shifted, his voice deepened, and suddenly, red fire rained from the ceiling. It crashed down upon Eric, Kyle Star, and Max Star. Before they could move, before they could breathe, the three collapsed, struck unconscious. Faryad Sahib stood up, slowly, his face red with rage. "Cursed tricksters," he muttered, teeth clenched. "If the spirit hadn't warned me, I would have been fooled." His eyes flared. He raised both hands to the sky. "Oh, Samri, tell me what punishment these deceivers deserve. Shall I sacrifice them again?" And then the voice echoed, ancient, thunderous, etched with finality. "Faryad Sahib, imprison all three in the Jamshid well. Place guards at its mouth. And on the 6th night, when the full moon rises, bring them out and offer them as a sacrifice. That night they shall be powerless." Faryad Sahib's eyes widened with glee. A cruel smile spread across his face. "Very well, Samri. Your command shall be obeyed." The spirit spoke once more. "But beware, do not release them before the full moon, or they shall become your greatest doom." Faryad Sahib stood, his voice booming. "Guards!" A golden bell rang sharply. 2 sorcerers entered, heads bowed. "Take these 3, throw them into the Jamshid well. Place 3 of our finest sorcerers to guard its mouth, day and night. Your command will be followed, Your Majesty." And so, 5 sorcerers approached. Without a word, they lifted the unconscious tricksters, Eric the Hunter, Kyle Star, and Max Star. They were taken through the twisted corridors of the palace, down into the abyss of Hoshruba, and then thrown into the darkness, into the bottomless, cursed well, the Jamshid well. 3 sorcerers sat on the rim, unblinking, unbreathing, silent watchers of the enchanted mouth of a prison like no other. Darkness surrounded them. Stone walls pressed in, and the air felt heavy, like a tomb. Then a groan, a voice. What happened, Eric?" Kyle Star whispered. Eric touched his bruised forehead, his voice grim. "Our plan failed." Faryad Sahib saw through the disguise. "The spirit of Samri must have warned him. That's why we're here, trapped in the Jamshid well." "Will we stay here forever?" Max Star asked, panic in his tone. "If this were an open well," Kyle growled, "we'd fly our ship out of here." Silence, a breath. Then Eric spoke, calm, focused. "Don't panic. We need cunning, not fear." Kyle frowned. "Then start thinking, because right now we don't even know how we were trapped." Eric closed his eyes, thinking deeply. "We'll get out. Let me think." Suddenly, a rustle above. 3 sorcerers, one by one, peered down into the depths of the well, silent, watching, waiting. 3 guards, Eric whispered, his eyes flickering with mischief. "Perfect! This is our way out!" From his satchel, he pulled a small round object and swallowed it. Suddenly, the object expanded. A shimmering cloak enveloped them all. "We'll wear this and act like we're dying. Our screams will lure them in. Then we escape wearing their robes." "Try it," Kyle Star said. "It might just work." Within moments, the well echoed with blood-curdling cries, agonizing, desperate, haunting. Above, the 3 sorcerers froze. "What's going on? We can't see them, but we can hear them." "Go down. If they die, Faryad Sahib will kill us." "You go." "No, you go." "Forget it. We're all going." And so they began their descent, unaware of the trap waiting below. The sorcerers descended into the Jamshid well, hovering with magic, unaware of the trap waiting below. Suddenly, Eric the Hunter hurled the egg of deception. Boom! A blast of red smoke engulfed the well, and the sorcerers collapsed unconscious. Without wasting a moment, Eric pulled out sorcerer robes from his satchel. He and Kyle dressed quickly, then applied the ointment of deception. And in seconds, they looked exactly like the fallen guards. But Eric wasn't done. He drew the Haidari dagger, knelt beside the first sorcerer, and drove the blade deep into his neck. "Ah, I was Samri the Wiz, slain while unconscious." The scream echoed, then the body vanished into smoke. One by one, Eric executed the other two. Each time, a scream, a name, a puff of vanishing ash. Silence returned. Now, the three heroes, Eric, Kyle, and Max, stood at the edge of the Jamshid Well, disguised as sorcerers. "How do we get out now?" Max Star whispered. The air was tense. The next move had to be perfect. "We'll head out right away," Eric the Hunter whispered, smirking with confidence. From his satchel, he pulled a magical rope, twirled it, and flung it toward the well's edge. With a soft thud, it caught firm. Max Star climbed up first, then Kyle Star, and finally, Eric. Back on solid ground, he wound up the rope, tucked it away, and with a mischievous grin, said, "Let's go to Faryad Sahib's palace and tell him the tricksters have escaped." Meanwhile, deep within the palace halls, Faryad Sahib celebrated with arrogance and pride. He had imprisoned the three in the Jamshid Well and proudly declared to all of Hoshruba, "On the night of the full moon, the tricksters shall be sacrificed, and the realm shall rejoice." The entire kingdom erupted in celebration. Sorcerers decorated the streets, dancers filled the palace, and Faryad Sahib, lost in wine and illusion, laughed in triumph. Unaware, the tricksters were already free and headed his way. Suddenly, a strange whistling sound echoed across the grand hall. The music stopped. The dancers froze, and Emperor Faryad Sahib leapt to his feet, his wine goblet crashing to the floor, shattering into pieces. His eyes darted across the room, his breath quickened, and his voice thundered, "By the oath of the Jamshid Well, tell Emperor Faryad Sahib what calamity is coming." He shouted again and again, his words echoing like a storm. One by one, the maids fled, leaving him alone in the eerie silence. And then, a loud explosion shook the ring. From the ceiling, a golden monkey plummeted, its body gleaming like molten metal. It struck the ground, solid, but within seconds, it stood upright, alive, its eyes glowing with unnatural brilliance. Faryad Sahib slowly lowered his trembling hands, his gaze locked with the creature's. "Hanuman deity, tell me, what trouble have I fallen into?" Faryad Sahib cried out in fear. The golden monkey's voice echoed like thunder. "You slumbered in negligence, O Emperor. The tricksters have escaped the Jamshid Well. Your sorcerer guards slain." Faryad Sahib's eyes widened in horror. What? Unthinkable. Impossible. But the monkey roared. "Hanuman never lies. Samri warned you. If they escape, they'll bring great disaster. But you chose pride over precaution. Now suffer the cost." Then, without another word, the monkey spun mid-air, transformed back into solid gold, and with a violent blast, vanished into the ceiling. Silence fell. Faryad Sahib stood trembling, hand on forehead, face pale with panic. "This is terrible," he whispered. Without delay, he rang the bell. A maid appeared. "Call the Prime Minister, summon the council. An urgent matter awaits." The maid bowed and left, and Faryad Sahib began pacing the marble floor. His mind a storm of fear. Soon the Prime Minister rushed in, his face shadowed with worry. "What is your command, Your Majesty? Why call the council in such haste?" Faryad Sahib gritted his teeth, his hands trembling. "We've been undone by our own carelessness. We locked the tricksters in the Jamshid Well, and we let our guard down. Now they've escaped and killed the sorcerer guards." The Prime Minister's eyes widened in disbelief. "This is disastrous. They'll be more cunning, more dangerous than ever before. Faryad Sahib exhaled in despair. Even Samri and Hanuman have turned their backs on us. A deadly silence followed. Then Faryad Sahib rose, voice thunderous. We must convene the council. Every wise sorcerer, every loyal commander. We need a new plan before the tricksters strike again. The Prime Minister bowed instantly. It shall be done, Your Majesty. And with that, the kingdom of Hoshruba braced itself for the storm yet to come. Very well, Your Majesty. I'll make the arrangements and inform you. The Prime Minister bowed and hurried away. Meanwhile, cloaked in the robes of sorcerers, Eric the Hunter, Kyle Starr, and Max Starr slipped silently into the city. But something was off. A lone sorcerer ran past them, panicked, breathless. Eric narrowed his eyes. Stay here. I'll find out what's going on. Without waiting for a reply, he darted toward the house the sorcerer had entered, ducked behind its wall, and from his satchel drew out the cloak of invisibility. In a blink, he vanished. Kyle and Max stood still, their eyes locked on the house. They waited, silent and anxious. And in that moment, they realized a hard truth. Without Eric the Hunter, they were lost. Senitor the Wiz would have destroyed them. No technology, no science could have saved them alone. Only Eric's cunning, his courage, his trickster mind had kept them alive. So they waited, humbled, alert, and completely dependent on the hunter. Minutes passed. Then, from the same house, the sorcerer emerged. But this time, he walked calmly, confidently, straight toward Kyle Starr and Max Starr. They froze, puzzled. Where was Eric the Hunter? But as the sorcerer leaned in and whispered, "Come with me, Kyle Starr, Max Starr. It's me, Eric." A knowing smile flickered across their faces. He had done it again. Killed the sorcerer, stolen his identity, and slipped into enemy ranks like a shadow in the fog. Why this disguise? Kyle asked. Eric glanced over his shoulder, voice low but firm. Things just got messier. Thank the heavens I arrived when I did. Now, we might just pull this off. What happened in there? Kyle pressed. Eric's eyes narrowed. I'll tell you everything. But first, we need to move, quickly. The hunt was on again, and Eric the Hunter was leading it. At a hidden clearing, the three gathered. Eric leaned against a rock, eyes sharp. Faryad Sahib knows we've escaped. He summoned a council. All his advisors, every last one, will gather to decide our fate. Kyle Starr's expression tensed. If they agree on a plan, what happens? Eric's tone darkened. Then, every sorcerer in Hoshruba, millions of them, will launch spells at us. Even one hit, and we're finished. Max Starr gasped. That's madness. Eric grinned, unfazed. Relax. I've got a trick up my sleeve, so twisted, they'll never forget it. Max groaned. Just tell us already. Eric stood tall, adjusting the satchel on his back. We'll crash their council, not as rebels, but as advisors. Kyle's eyes widened. Wait, what? Eric smiled. You'll see. The game had just changed. Eric smiled. I'll explain later. God willing, I'll return victorious. You two go and hide in that abandoned house. I'll be back in 2 hours. Sit cross-legged, as if chanting. No one will come near you. With that, he quickly walked away. Kyle Starr and Max Starr headed to the abandoned house. Meanwhile, Eric reached a large room where about 10 sorcerers were gathered. Faryad Sahib sat on a grand chair in the center. The Prime Minister stood nearby. I've explained the situation. What are your opinions? Faryad Sahib asked. The sorcerers shared their thoughts, but no clear decision emerged. One sorcerer, Bashama the Wise, remained silent. Faryad Sahib turned to him and asked, "Bashama the sorcerer, why are you silent? You are the wisest of my advisors." "Your Majesty, I've heard everyone's opinions, but I have a proposal that cannot fail," Bashama said in a serious tone. "Tell us your proposal," Faryad Sahib urged. "The real problem is the necklace around your neck. The tricksters aim to steal it. We must secure the necklace so they cannot reach it," Bashama explained. "Absolutely right. The necklace's safety is our main concern," Faryad Sahib agreed. "My advice is to remove it and hand it to someone else. They'll attack you, thinking you still have it. Meanwhile, the council can act. Once they're defeated, you'll take it back," Bashama suggested. Faryad Sahib's eyes lit up. "Brilliant, a perfect plan," he said. "But who should hold the necklace?" the Prime Minister asked. "I'll give it to Bashama himself," Faryad Sahib said. "Only the wise can guard it." "Absolutely right," the Prime Minister and other sorcerers agreed. Bashama was indeed trustworthy and wise. With the council's unanimous decision, Faryad Sahib removed the necklace and handed it to Bashama. "It's now in your care. Rest assured, I'll protect it with my life," Bashama said, placing the necklace in his inner pocket. "That settles it. The council is dismissed. Find the tricksters," Faryad Sahib said, rising. He was satisfied. The sorcerers saluted and left. Faryad Sahib returned to his chamber and ordered the maids to resume dancing and singing. But soon, a loud explosion shook the room. A golden monkey fell from the ceiling, did a somersault, and came to life. Faryad Sahib stood in shock. "Hanuman deity, you're back? Is all well?" he asked anxiously. "Emperor Faryad Sahib, you've proven utterly foolish. You handed the necklace to the trickster with your own hands," the monkey said. Faryad Sahib felt as if a bomb had exploded in his head. Upon hearing Hanuman deity's words, Faryad Sahib nearly lost his mind. "But I gave the necklace to Bashama the sorcerer. He's completely trustworthy," he cried, wringing his hands. "Foolish Emperor, you don't understand their cunning. Eric the Hunter discovered your plan, killed Bashama, assumed his form, and stole the necklace right before your eyes," Hanuman said. Faryad Sahib beat his chest in despair. I'm ruined. Control yourself, Faryad Sahib. The tricksters are still in Hoshruba. Come to your senses and act now, or they'll escape forever," Hanuman warned. "What should I do?" Faryad cried. "Fortify the borders. Alert all sorcerers. Hunt them down," Hanuman commanded. Then he flipped into the air and vanished into the ceiling. Faryad Sahib, driven mad with rage, burst out of his chamber screaming. Meanwhile, in the abandoned house, Kyle Star and Max Star sat waiting until Eric the Hunter, still disguised as Bashama the Wise, came running. "Get up, we need to go, now! I've got the necklace," he said, showing it. "How did you get it?" they asked, stunned. "No time to explain. We must escape the realm," Eric said. "We can use the ship," Kyle Star replied. "Right, let's move," Eric exclaimed. But just then, several sorcerers appeared, spotting them. "There they are!" one shouted. "Be alert, Kyle Star! Be alert, Max Star!" Eric yelled, drawing his pistol. He fired. The explosion lit the sky, and the sorcerers were blown to pieces. The explosion drew hundreds of sorcerers. Eric quickly put on the cloak of invisibility. "Hurry, Kyle Star! I'll take care of them," he shouted. Max Star fired his pistol rapidly as sorcerers screamed in agony. Kyle Star pulled out a button, rubbed it, and threw it to the ground. Their ship emerged instantly. He opened the door and both rushed inside. Eric removed the cloak and leapt aboard. Kyle Star slammed the door shut and launched the ship at full speed. They soared into the sky. After half an hour, Kyle Star checked the map. "We've crossed Hoshruba's borders," he announced. Eric, now back in his true form, jumped for joy. When the ship landed, they were finally safe, standing among Lord Hammer's mighty army. Seeing the ship, the soldiers gathered around. Lord Hammer arrived as Eric, Kyle Starr, and Max Starr stepped out. Eric shouted in triumph. Lord Hammer's face beamed with joy. He embraced them warmly and led them to his tent. Eric handed over the Samri pearl necklace. Pleased, Lord Hammer rewarded them with 200 bags of gold coins. Eric gleefully stored them in his satchel. Eric then recounted the entire adventure. Lord Hammer laughed and thanked them, giving extra rewards to Kyle and Max. They passed them to Eric, who danced with delight. Later, Kyle and Max returned to their tent. What an adventure! Eric is truly the king of tricksters, Kyle said. They laughed, talked a while, and fell asleep peacefully. In the middle of the night, chaos erupted. Kyle and Max Starr rushed outside. The camp was under attack. Faryad Sahib's army had stormed out of Hoshruba, launching a massive magical assault on Lord Hammer's forces. "We need to get out of here," Max shouted. "We'll get caught in this madness." "Agreed. Time to leave," Kyle said. They ran to their ship, opened the door, and climbed inside. Kyle activated the controls, and the ship soared into the sky. As they neared planet Chamak, they donned their goggles. Crossing Istimal Dog, they entered space. But suddenly, the ship spun out of control. Its systems had failed. The ship flipped violently, and both brothers screamed, trapped in a spiraling descent into the unknown.
Thus, Eric the Hunter, Kyle Starr, and Max Starr braved deadly magic, fierce enemies, and unimaginable trials. Their courage, loyalty, and cleverness wrote a tale for the ages. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We'll return soon with a brand new and entirely different adventure. Until then, stay safe, stay curious, and farewell from the world of wonder.